Okay, everybody, hold on to your butts. We're in for a long one today. Now, you might be wondering what is with our ridiculous choice of attire. I'm sort of wondering too, to be honest. This wasn't a very good idea, but I did it anyway. This is the old Ironclad set. Actually, I tell a lie. This is just the vanilla Ironclad set that you get from Iron Keep. It's identical, except the stats are better. It's incredibly heavy. It offers really good defense and poise. And it has another thing that's quite useful. So this is presumably why they call the area the Shaded Woods. This misty area is full of invisible fuckers. It's barely possible to make them out if you're looking really intently at the screen. However, in the video, I don't record at native quality because that would make these things ridiculously large. It's really hard to see them. So, my cockneyed solution is to just light myself on fire and follow the health bars. Even when the health bars appear, you can't lock on, so you need to be careful and pay attention. The reason that we are wearing the old Ironclad set, aside from it looking really silly, is that it will prevent backstabs. Given that you can't really see anything in this stupid place, having one of those guys sneak up on you and stab you in the back is certainly not out of the realm of possibility. It's very, very easy to get lost in here and disoriented. So just take your time. Try to remember which direction the entrance is in so you have a clear path of retreat. And bring plenty of life gems, because you'll take a lot of chip damage just from people shooting arrows at you. For weapons, I would recommend something a lot like the longsword. Something that's got a pretty decent reach and lateral slash to it. Because, like I said, you can't lock on. So, having a weapon that will sort of just hit a wide area in front of you is super helpful. Another quirk of this area is that you'll literally have a heart attack every time you see one of those friendly player ghosts that pop up from time to time. Well, maybe not literally, but it is pretty unsettling that something that just sort of happens innocuously throughout the whole game suddenly makes you really scared. Of course, you can tell the difference pretty easily because the player ghosts are much easier to see, of course. Now, these ghosts, or cloaked rogues, or whatever you want to call them, don't respawn indefinitely, but there are a lot of them. I would not really recommend just hanging around waiting for them. They don't give that many souls, and it's dangerous. Also, it's kind of boring. The old sun ring is a curious accessory that will, upon taking enough damage, charge up and explode. It's kind of awesome. And it's actually pretty powerful if you can catch the enemy in the explosion. And the explosion doesn't hurt you. So, if you are building in such a way that you expect taking damage as a thing that you're going to do, such as if you're wearing stupidly heavy armor, then putting it on might not be a bad idea. This ring is even more valuable, though. The Chloranthy Ring +1 is just the Chloranthy Ring, but +1er. Every little bit of extra stamina regen is extremely valuable. If you're going through this this area your first time, I would recommend putting on the heaviest set of armor you've got and just trying to poise tank through most of it. It's certainly possible to dodge attacks in here, but given that you can barely see that they're coming, it's a little unreliable, and it's just better to have something to back you up if all else fails. If you're not willing to put on an enormous sheet of plate metal, then what you might want to consider is putting on the Jester's chest piece. This has the same effect of providing immunity to backstabs, without the added cost of weighing 3 tons. I would not recommend immolation, however. I don't think there is any circumstance where I'd recommend immolation. It sort of works for me here, kind of, maybe, but there are better options, such as not lighting yourself on fire. If you hit one of those trees with a face with a weapon, they will make a somewhat unsettling moaning noise. This also applies if you're on fire, so if you want to hear a lot of moaning noises, just use immolation and stand next to one of those trees, and boy howdy! Now, actually getting through this area is not difficult if you know where you're going, as is the case with most things in life. However, and this is a big however, if you want to get all of the items, getting through here is time-consuming no matter how well you know the area. But there's a brief respite up here. Talk?
Leave me be. I like it quiet. Leave me be.
Is that rock talking?
What business have you here, traveller? You may call me Vengal, if I deserve a name in this sorry state. 'Tis rare to flap these gums. This is pleasant.
Let's take a closer look and see exactly what we're having a pleasant conversation with.
Long ago, I was hired to defend the kingdom. I remember a long, brutal fight, and then somebody killed me. So I thought. I came to and found myself like this. I don't know what explains it, but it's not so bad, really. Now I watch the days go by and gaze at the night sky, thinking of the finer things, far removed from war. I'd grown weary of battle, but did not realize it until now. I know not what brings you on this journey, nor will I deign to ask. You may bear a great burden, don't we all? I prefer to stay my distance. But I want to warn you of something. My body. I see visions. My body, headless, raging without me. My body wielding my sword, a sword forged only to kill. My body will show no mercy. If you see the wretched thing, stay far away. I learn new things every day. Things never learned in battle. And thanks to you, I've recalled the joy of conversation. If I can help you, if you require something, do speak up.
How appropriate.
I cannot lie. Sometimes I wonder what's become of the kingdom. I was a hired hand, yes, but we soldiers stared death in the eye together. And for His Highness, I am afraid. But perhaps it's for the best. We knew not what we fought for. I was born in Feroza, a land in the distant east. When I was born, we were already mired in prolonged conflict with our neighbours. Eventually, our kingdom fell, and our people scattered. I've been a sellsword ever since. All I ever knew was war, and I can imagine no other way to live. What a fool I was. I am grateful for these peaceful days. But such contentment lies only in the here and now. Why must life be so confounding? Thank you for lending an ear to my ramblings. Here, take these. I've no use for them. Go along and resume your journey.
Well, despite his somewhat frosty introduction, Vengarl is actually quite a sweetheart. He also sells some really nice stuff. Gold pine resin in particular is a godsend for just plain old melee characters who don't invest in spells. Destructive great arrows are also very powerful, and I would recommend picking some up if you've got a great bow. He also sells, uniquely, the Claymore, which is basically the biggest greatsword you've got until you get to ultra greatswords.
Meet again, one day soon.
He also has one more thing that we're going to need to pop a soul to be able to afford.
Back again? Well, this is a pleasant surprise.
The Ring of Soul Protection is just like the Ring of Life Protection, except that it also protects against petrification. It's pretty useful, I guess. Not it costs 3,000 more souls to repair useful, but...
Farewell. May we meet again, one day soon.
It's probably worth the pickup here. It's probably the easiest Ring of Soul Protection to get in the game. Every time one of those friendly phantoms shows up for a moment. We're almost through this area. In fact, we could leave right now if I were not determined to get more or less everything that's here. There's a couple more things that we need to be on the lookout for. There's no shame in just cutting and running, though. Fighting things in this area is really more trouble than it's worth. The really annoying thing about the Shades is that they love to run away. And this chest is probably the last valuable treasure here, the clear bluestone ring. We picked one of these up from Carillion of the Fold earlier. It increases... I'm sorry, I should say that it decreases spell cast time. I guess you could say that it increases spell speed. It's really just a matter of semantics. It's pretty useful for casters. There's also a singular curse jar here that is a portent to things to come. There are definitely some landmarks in this area that you can use to your advantage. For instance, The old sun ring chest indicates that you're at the very edge of the arena. Fortunately, that one last howling tree indicates that we're home free. We're now in the next area, the Shaded Ruins. It's sort of counted as the same area in terms of bonfires and stuff, but I don't feel like that they are similar enough areas to really be the same. At any rate, let's change into something less spine-crushingly heavy. And maybe try on the new hat that our friend gave us. I'm so indecisive when it comes to weapons. However, one thing I am decisive about is that you really, really do want the Cursed Bite ring on for this area. So, the Claymore. It's a sword. It's a big sword. There's nothing particularly special about it. It's just the Claymore. Use it if you like very big swords that aren't quite ridiculous ultra great swords. I decide somewhat belatedly that maybe I should remove the temptation of immolation from myself. Instead, let's go with things that heal us instead of hurt us. I'm also going to say farewell to the Claymore here because, well, I do like it. It's unupgraded, and that's not going to cut the mustard in this area. Now, if I might make a suggestion, you definitely want to go with a weapon that is not enchanted with any elemental damage. The enemies in this area are extremely resistant to all elements. That looks dangerous. Before we proceed on the obvious path, there's a couple things we can do here. For instance, if we jump out this window, we arrive on a semi-hidden path below. At the end of the path is a basilisk, who is easily dispatched. They're really only a threat if they either come in number or they take you by surprise. They have a tendency to do both, so do be careful. We could continue up to the way opposite of the bridge, but the petrified lion there is blocking our way. Now, our prize for taking this detour is the Black Knight Halberd. The Black Knight Halberd is an extremely powerful weapon. Most Black Knight weapons are, but this one in particular, I think, has a good combination of reasonable stat requirements and just is a good weapon all around. It deals mostly physical damage with some fairly significant fire bonus to it. Now, it's not very useful in this area because that fire bonus is just dead weight, but it's definitely worth picking up if you're a dexterity-based character. Even just two-handing it is really strong. Now, this petrified lion is special. We actually want to rescue him. Hello, lion friend! As you can see from my definitely not fake head, We are family. Oh god, he hates family. Alright, so these are the Lion Clan warriors. They are extremely powerful if they hit you, but their attacks are equally slow. They can basically not be staggered under any circumstance. I have never succeeded. And they're actually kind of glass cannons for all of that. However, as I mentioned before, they are incredibly resistant to elemental damage. So, their glass cannonness will be effectively negated if you attack with any kind of magic or elemental weapon. So, come in here with the right equipment, or you will be quite sorry. That's a big lizard. I am uncomfortable with how large that lizard is. The key to safely taking out the Lion Clan warriors is just to take your time. They're very easily outmaneuvered. They're also very vulnerable to being backstabbed. So, if you take advantage of the fact that all of their swings take forever to recover from, you can generally take one out in 1 or 2 hits. Now, I do want to show something off, in that while they are not enchanted with dark damage, because the shield will block all of the damage that you take, they will inflict curse on you if they hit you with their axes, even through a shield. It's just another reason why you should probably consider wearing the Curse Bite ring here. They also do a ton of damage if they hit you when you're not blocking, so it's best to just dodge. It's not especially hard either. Curse jars are the same as they always were. Just roll into them, hit them with a weapon, smack them with a shield. Preferably do something that doesn't take up precious durability. Alright, so this great basilisk over here is a very dangerous foe with a very glaring weakness. Which I'm going to demonstrate with the long great bow I found off screen. Believe me, it took a while. You do not want to see that. Each arrow you fire from the great bow is quite a bit more powerful than its counterpart from a normal bow or a crossbow. However, it's slower and takes up more stamina. As you can see, the basilisk is not particularly annoyed that we are shooting it with giant iron spikes. It's okay with that, I guess. It will not move from that spot, thus making the proper course of action pretty obvious. If you don't have a ranged weapon, then, I don't know, just break out some of the bolts and stuff that you found over the course of your journey and use the light crossbow. You'll probably have something. So that's their primary attack. Spewing that sort of dusty gray cloud will petrify you. And sometimes they'll do a big spinning slash that is normally not a problem, but since this guy is so enormous, it will hurt a lot. And I mean a lot. Really. Be careful. Just finish him off with arrows or spells or whatever you want. Just don't get impatient. Given that there's even more curse jars back here, trying to circle around behind him might just end up making matters worse. It's definitely worth it to dispatch him, though, because petrified dragon bones are quite precious. Yeah, that looks pretty pointless. Now, the Lion Clan warriors can be pretty difficult if you're using super heavy weapons like ultra great swords and great axes, because they basically just do not get stunned ever. Having such a slow weapon will lead you to being in a really bad position for counterattacking, and they have really strong attacks too. You'll probably lose that war of attrition if you're not careful. Now, I would say that this ruined building is probably where you're most likely to get cursed, because there's a curse jar right above the entrance, on a ledge. I wouldn't really recommend looking for it, because by the time you get it in your sights and shoot an arrow capable of destroying it, you'll probably be cursed anyway. I would just move on. There's a total of 3 jars in this little house, and if you're in the wrong position, all 3 of them can build up on you at once. So, don't dally. Now, that big fella down there might look fearsome, but we'll deal with him later. I got a hot tip from somebody in the thread that throwing knives are actually super effective against crystal lizards. That hot tip turned out to be not true. Maybe I misinterpreted, or maybe my stats are too low. But either way, I poked him with a spear and he died. Maybe it's because the throwing knives will stagger them better than normal arrows? I don't know. However we go about taking that guy on, we're going to want to be cautious about it. The chest holds a dark scythe, the dark enchanted scythe, which is not to be confused with the great scythe that we've been using. The normal scythe is actually not really a scythe-looking thing at all, it's just sort of a halberd. Hello? Yeah, I'll mess you up. Alright, no response. We're definitely in line of sight, so he doesn't seem to be hostile. However, he doesn't seem to speak our language either. This is why we bought the Ring of Whispers.
Human, are we? This is no place for you. Be gone. Are you not afraid of me? Humans rarely come here. Those who do turn back when they see me, or make an attempt on my life. But you are different. We once had a master. He created us long, long ago. But he was born with a fatal flaw. He resented those who had what he lacked and became fully mired in hatred. Eventually, he drove himself mad. It was at the peak of this madness that he conjured up these strange creatures. Our master was a tragically lonely soul. Eventually, his solitude eroded his very reason. In the end, he never understood what it was that he truly lacked. Nobody knows when we were born, or where our master has gone. The only ones who even speak a human tongue are myself and my better half. I wish to ask a favor of you. I want you to kill my betrothed. Once, I always found her at my side. But as time went on, things went awry. She became violent, raging uncontrollably. Eventually, she came after me. And we have been locked in combat ever since.
we seem to be at a standstill. The wounds we exchange are never lethal. I was born with my master's madness. Perhaps this is some curse. I will be sure to assist you in return. The past is a distant fog. My name was Targ. That is all that I remember. The past...
Undead or not, Tark seems to have a curse of his own to deal with. Fortunately, he's pretty friendly when you take the time to actually talk to him. It pays to be, I don't want to say assertive, but be determined in your attempts to befriend people in the Dark Souls world. There's a good chance that the person you're talking to is just a little bit shy. This Lion Clan warrior is a little bit different. His mane is golden instead of brown. That was the old sun ring in action. It's a little impractical, but in a life or death struggle, that unexpected burst of damage can save your butt. This puts us on the opposite side of where we drop down from the bonfire, and it also serves as a sort of questionable shortcut down to Vengar's little altar. It's probably possible to survive that drop if you put on the necessary fall damage reducing equipment, but there's not a whole lot of reason to, given how close that area is to the bonfire. Still, map interconnectivity is nothing I will ever complain about. At any rate, we now have a little favor to do for Tark. If his betrothed is anything like him, then having her raging out of control is probably just really bad for the public safety of the area in general. As we get farther on, the game is more willing to dole out rare upgrade materials to us. They're still pretty rare though, so as Koan said, use them with great thrift. Speaking of public safety hazards in this area, it seems that that Lion Clan warrior did not know where he was walking and stumbled right down into a hidden cave. Well, let's just leave him down there for the time being. One less to deal with. As far as I can tell, some enemies just have much wider windows of being vulnerable to a backstab. Because with some of the Elan Knights, I was standing directly behind them and it just wouldn't connect. But with these guys, that guy was pretty much entirely turned around. But I got him anyway. It's mysterious. It's not necessary to break all the curse jars here, but it is pretty satisfying. It also gets rid of that infernal laughter. There's plenty of goodies if you're willing to look around thoroughly. Now, I would not actually recommend unpetrifying this lion. It's not so much that it wastes a fragrant branch, it's kind of a waste of time. Because behind the lion is another couple of curse jars and a chest that contains, drumroll, the Lion Mage set, and another Fragrant Branch. So it's basically... it's sort of a net nothing. If you really want the Lion Mage set, then go ahead. It's not bad. But for the most part, I would just recommend saving yourself some time and skipping over that little detour. This, however, is much more worthwhile. The Homing Soul Mass sorcery is quite powerful if you have the intelligence to use it. This looks like something we saw a long time ago. Hey there, friend.
Ah, look how far this undead has wandered. And a very fit undead you are. A bit too alive, but with a darkish shadow. Yet still unprepared for a deeper dark. And like every undead, you have no future. Oh my, don't mind me. I'm just talking amongst myself. But if you find a need for a truer dark, then meet again. We shall. The dark is still nascent within you. May the dark shine your way. The dark.
This eccentric old man doesn't have anything helpful to say at the moment, but I suppose we might run into him again later. Seems like the guy that dropped down the hole has found his way out, so let's just continue exploring. Only thing of note in this cave, don't step into the goo, it's corrosive and will wreck your shit. Now, if you took the plunge instead of the Lion Warrior, you have to deal immediately with 4 basilisks on either side. If you panic, or you don't really have a good melee weapon equipped at the time, this can very quickly lead to you getting petrified. Coming at it from a different direction is recommended. Is there a bird down here? There's a bird down here. Hello, ma'am.
Thank you for helping me. I am Ornifex. I owe you some form of thanks, but have nothing for you at the moment. If it would not trouble you, could you visit my abode just down the way? Thank you, kind traveler. I believe that I can be of assistance if you would visit me at my home. Thank you.
Well, that's fair enough. Ornifex is a nice lady who's more than willing to help if she has the proper tools to do so. She was also imprisoned next to an Estus Class shard, so it's doubly worthwhile to unpetrify the lion over here and get his key. It's honestly a little random and arbitrary, but so are a lot of things in this game. Praise the old sun ring! With Ornifex 3 and the old guy in the wheelchair talked to, we're pretty much done with this area. It's pretty heavily populated with NPCs, to be honest. Also Estus Flash shards. I'm not quite sure why there are so many in this area. We're about to fight the boss, but there's something about that get-up that makes me intensely uneasy, so let's see if we can find other help. The way to the end of the area is up here. Through that rather imposing-looking fog gate. Now, if you talk to him fully, you can summon Tark as a phantom in this fight to help you out. I intend to do so. However, I want to heal myself up a little first. And to avoid running into the problem I've had intermittently throughout this thread, I kind of want to summon a human first before I summon Tark. It's not entirely necessary, but it's when you see signs, try and hit them up. People just want to play with you. Try and make multiplayer possible whenever you can. The boss is one of the few in the game that actually has a weakness to darkness, so we're going to equip the Silver-Black Spear. The boss is also weak to fire, however, so if you're not in possession of any reliable dark damage, then don't fret. Pyromancy Flame will suit you just perfectly. Hello. Oh god, hello. Alright. Lady is stuck in sand, but is hostile. I had no qualms with poking her. Okay, so, this is Scorpioness Najka. Personally, I think this fight is kind of a hollow imitation of the fight with Chaos Witch Kalog, but there's nothing objectionable about it, except for one thing. Her attacks are pretty easy to avoid and tend to have fairly significant tells to them, especially her tail. This attack can be dangerous because it's kind of random, and it lasts a while, so it can catch you off guard. The biggest danger in this fight is probably getting hit either by her poking spear or by her front claws. They're small, so they can be difficult to see winding up. Now, with two people helping us out, one of them being a pretty buff man-scorpion, this fight is not at all difficult. It's honestly not difficult on your own either, but it can pose a problem if it gets to a phase that we just skip because we're awesome. Alright, so that item up there is like one flame butterfly. Don't even bother. There's a way to get it that involves getting the boss over there and knocking down the tree, but it's a singular flame butterfly. Who cares? That's definitely a fight I would look at in more detail on a later playthrough, because that was sort of just bowled over. This rather long passageway leads to the next area. Probably one of my least favorites in the game, to be honest. The Doors of Pharos. There's a rather motley collection of enemies in this area, including these primal knights. They're huge and they pack a punch, but they're also pretty slow. Their shield bash can come out deceptively quickly, however, so keep your eyes out. The other kind of enemy you will encounter here are Gurm warriors. These guys look a lot like Gavlon do. That is because Gavlon is also a Gurm. However, these guys don't seem very interested in doing business and instead just want to bash your brains in. They also drop stuff with, like, alarming regularity. I think I got the entire Gurm set here without even trying. Now, this chest is sneaky. It's difficult to tell in the water, but it has the telltale padlock on it. So let's try out our new Black Knight halberd on this charlatan. Once we reconfigure our equipment so that we're not fat rolling in the water, that would be awful. Turns out it didn't even matter, because the halberd does a ton of damage. We get a unique thrusting sword and some more of that dark armor. As well as just, you know, not getting eaten. I feel like that mimic is almost a little unfair because of how hard it is to tell that it's a mimic. At any rate, that does it for the Shaded Woods and Ruins. We'll go through Pharos' doorway next time.